Hi, and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today we're going to talk about Mary Tudor, Princess of England and Queen of France. Usually, it's just me, but today I have my cousin Katie with me. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the pod.
Thanks. It's been a minute.
It has, but this is fun times. It's March 18, 1496, and a new princess bursts onto the scene at Richmond Palace in London. Meet Mary Tudor, born to the ultimate power couple, King Henry VII and Queen Elizabeth. Her dad, he snatched the English throne in 1485 by having the winningest army, and he married Elizabeth, a York princess uniting two feuding houses. At just a few days old, Mary was the newest star of the Tudor nursery, but it wasn't all cuddles and cooing. She had three older siblings stealing the spotlight. Prince Arthur was 9, and he was the golden boy, usually off with their dad, learning how to be a king. Princess Margaret, 6, was the bossy big sister running the nursery. And Prince Harry, the future King Henry VIII, was 4. There should have been another sister, 3-year-old Elizabeth, but she had died 6 months earlier, before Mary was born.
Oh.
Baby Mary was a bright spot, like new hope for the future.
Right.
But everyone was probably like a little bit worried. So let's talk about Mary. She is the total Renaissance it girl. This wasn't just any princess. She was a knockout with a megawatt smile and a wit that could slay dragons. She was popular and charismatic. And little Mary wasn't just chilling with dolls. She was getting schooled to dominate the European stage. Her parents loaded her up with French, Latin, music, needlework, plus epic dance moves.
She was a well-educated girl.
Yeah, she was educated to be a future queen.
Okay.
By age 10, she could charm diplomats and twirl through a banquet like a pro. She was a hostess as a child. Henry VII and Elizabeth knew their girl was probably headed for a fancy foreign marriage. So they made sure she was ready to dazzle from London to Lisbon because they had no real way of knowing where she'd end up, just that it would be major. That education wasn't just book smarts, it was Mary's golden ticket to ruling any royal court. So she knew a bunch of languages because who knows where she's going to end up.
Right.
Fast forward to February 21, 1499. And the Tudor nursery got another addition. Queen Elizabeth, now at this point almost 33, gave birth to Prince Edmund, England's new spare. Mary, almost 3, probably toddled over to peek at her baby brother, maybe even dreaming of being a big sister, because she was the baby, but now she's not. But Edmund died in 1500, barely 16 months old. So for little Mary, this was her first taste of heartbreak. She was 3, she got a little brother. He lived for about 1.5 years, not quite, and then he died. Now Henry VII was making plans with his kids' futures. His big plan? Marry off Arthur, who was the Prince of Wales, to a Spanish princess to cement England's peace on the world stage. And this is when it might sound familiar from your other episodes.
Okay.
And in 1502, Mary's sister Margaret, just 12, was married to King James IV of Scotland. Their grandmother, Margaret Beaufort, who'd been hitched at 12 herself, begged for Margaret to stay home a bit longer. But not much longer. Politics eventually won because at 13, Margaret became the Queen of Scots, a title that made her 11-year-old brother, Harry, King Henry VIII, the future King Henry VIII, green with envy because now she was a queen. She outranked the spare. He was just the Duke of York. And dukes bowed to queens, even if that queen was his annoying big sister still living in the family nursery.
Oh, jeez.
On April 2, 1502, word came from Wales that Arthur, 15, and Catherine had both fallen deathly ill, maybe from sweating sickness or some other nasty Tudor-era bug. Catherine pulled through, but Arthur didn't. He died at Ludlow Castle, leaving the court in shock. The heir to the throne, married just 5 months, was gone. For 6-year-old Mary, Just 2 weeks past her birthday, it was a gut punch. Her big brother, the future king, was no more, so now she's lost another brother. Suddenly, 10-year-old Henry was the new Prince of Wales, yanked from his Pope dreams to prep for the crown. Mary, now 6, got her own household at this point. And Margaret was soon off to Scotland. And Mary was getting her own household. So a lot of change was happening. She was going to be living on her own in her household. No
At
longer
7 or 8?
At 6.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So Mary just rolled with the chaos, happy to have Margaret and Harry bickering at home for now. But 1502 was a big year for our tiny princess. The Tudors were still a shaky dynasty, needing backups. So on February 2, 1503, 36-year-old Queen Elizabeth gave birth to another girl, Princess Catherine. But joy turned to horror. 9 days later, Elizabeth died from childbirth complications, probably an infection. Possibly an infection complicated by food poisoning, because there was food poisoning going around the castle at that time, too.
Oh, jeez.
So she died 9 days after baby Catherine was born. And baby Catherine followed within days. She also died.
Oh.
So Mary, now 1 month shy of 7, lost her mom and her sister the same week. Just 4 months later, in June 1503, 13-year-old Margaret was packed off to Scotland to be Queen of Scots, leaving Mary even lonelier. Her big sister was going to Scotland. Mary was being packed off. Now, they didn't really need a royal nursery because Henry would be with his father learning how to be king. Margaret was in Scotland being queen. Mary would be the only one left in the nursery, especially since baby Catherine died. So in April 1509, 14-year-old Mary's world flipped again. Her father, Henry VII, coughed his last at Richmond Palace, and he was felled by tuberculosis.
Mm.
The king is dead. Long live the king. The new king is her big brother, Harry, now 17, who became King Henry VIII, strutting out of the throne with big plans and a bigger ego. Mary, still a teen, was probably swept up in the chaos. Henry VII was buried in May. June 11th, 17-year-old Henry married Catherine of Aragon. On June 24, they had a dazzling double coronation, crowned as England's new power couple. But the party crashed fast because 5 days later, Mary's beloved grandmother, Margaret Beaufort, died, likely from an illness caught in the marriage coronation frenzy. In just 3 months, Mary lost her dad and her grandmother. And her big brother was now calling the shots, including her entire future, because she's not married yet. So her brother, King Henry VIII, is her teenage guardian.
Could you imagine, I could not imagine giving my 13-year-old son...
Well, he's 17 now, almost 18.
Even still.
But poor 14-year-old Mary is like, fuck, who am I going to be married to?
Right?
Because at 14, she's pushing it. She's marriage age.
Right, she's almost an old lady.
Her sister got married at 12.
12?
Yeah. And part of me thinks that her dad was not marrying Mary off because he just wanted to keep her at home as long as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was probably sick and just didn't think about it.
And she probably knew that. Harry has no real reason to keep her at home. She's not even living with him. She's just living in another castle on her own.
That's crazy.
So on January 1st, 1511, Queen Catherine, Harry's wife, delivered a boy, Prince Harry, and England went wild for the new heir. She's probably very excited. I feel like 14 is prime time to be an auntie. You're like, nice, right. I'm going to rock this. But the joy was fleeting because he died at 53 days old. So he wasn't even 2 months. It was fast. And Catherine's pregnancies kept ending in heartbreak. Stillbirths, miscarriages, you name it. If there's a bad way for a pregnancy to end, that's what Catherine was going through.
That's so sad.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have affected Mary as much, obviously, as it affected Catherine, but I imagine that's hard for her, too. She's still very young. She's basically a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
You know? That's a lot to go through in your life, even if you're not directly there.
Yeah.
And Mary was growing up fast, and Henry VIII was scheming to marry her off to, dun dun dun, France. France is the winner. King Louis XII's wife had died, and Henry, sniffing out an alliance, offered up his now 18-year-old sister Mary to 52-year-old Louis.
Ew.
Yeah. He'd been married twice before. He was creaky, childless, and desperate for an heir. So that's exactly what this marriage is for. This isn't just like an alliance. He's like, hey, I heard you need an heir. I have a teenage sister. Do you want her? Which is so gross.
She's prime baby making age.
Mm-hmm. Mary, knowing she was headed for a marriage with a grandpa king, played hardball. Legend says she made Henry swear that if Louis died, she could pick her next husband. Allegedly, because none of this is in the paperwork. And that seems exactly like our girl, plotting her escape before she even left England. She was like, okay, I'll do this. But when he dies, because he will die, he's 52, and this is the 16th century. Like, there's no high blood pressure medicine. If you have high blood pressure, you might just die.
You will.
Yeah. So Henry sent his best friend, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, to escort Mary to her French wedding.
Yay! We like Charles, maybe.
He's a complicated historical figure. I like him when he looks like Henry Cavill.
Yes.
On October 9, 1514, 18-year-old Mary married 52-year-old King Louis XII in a lavish ceremony, stepping into the role of Queen of France. And if this sounds familiar from the Tudors, it is, except a little wrong, because in the Tudors, Princess Margaret married the King of Portugal, and in real life, Princess Mary married the King of France.
Right.
But this is where they got that from, this exact moment. So picture Mary strutting into France like she owned the joint. Remember, she is the it girl. She is charismatic. She's beautiful. She's popular. She can dance. She was a hostess at 10. Like, she was raised for this. And she wasn't just Louis's trophy wife, crowned in a ceremony dripping with gold. Mary threw banquets that had the French court buzzing. She charmed everyone, from snooty dukes to the future King Francis I and his wife Claude, who was also her stepdaughter, Claude. Because the king did have daughters. He just didn't have sons.
Didn't have sons. Got it.
And Claude became one of her really close friends. She even rubbed shoulders with the young Mary and Anne Boleyn, who were assisting her at French court. Mary and Anne Boleyn were young girls, younger than Mary. And they were sent to be her ladies-in-waiting in France so that she had some English friends while she settled into French court. And Louis was hacking and wheezing. He was every bit the old man. 52 was a lot older then than it is now, and he was feeling his age. But Mary ran the court like a girl boss. She put everything into this. She was like, I'm going to be one hell of a Queen of France.
Right? As she should.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like at 18, it would be easy to just go over there and be mopey. Like, son of a...
I guess, like, it's also kind of her niche. Like, she's used to
what she was raised for.
She's what she was raised for, and she was doing it in her own dad's court before...
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
She knew how to work a room. She knew how to do all the things. And, like, getting to France, speaking French, I'm sure, it was one of the languages she learned.
Yeah.
Like, she walked in there like a girl boss and was like, okay, I am now the it girl, and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm the queen, and I'm going to be the queen.
Right, I'm going to be the queen, and when this mofo dies, because he's going to die, I get to do what I want to do anyways, so I'm going to
might as well earn that dower income.
Right, exactly.
So on January 1st, 1515, King Louis XII died, still sonless. Mary, still 18, was a widow, and definitely not pregnant. Although the gossip that went around when King Louis XII died was that he overdid it in his bedroom activities with his young teenage wife, and that's what killed him.
As if an old man's going to go out, I'm sure that's the way they
He
would want
was
to go.
already pretty sick, but it probably didn't help that he was exerting himself trying to make a son.
Would you die of too much sex?
Yeah, that's what everyone was saying, because that's the easy joke, right? The 18-year-old wife comes in and 3 months later he dies. And I feel like that's still the joke they make now.
So, right. He's so excited. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Charles Brandon was sent to bring the Dowager Queen home, but Mary had other plans. She'd fallen hard for Charles, who was a dashing 31-year-old with a sketchy marriage history. In March 1515, just 2 months after Louis's death, they eloped, still in France. No permission from Henry. Because she was like, look, I told him I was going to pick my next husband.
Yeah.
And while he might not have actually agreed to it, he didn't say no strong enough for me to listen. So I'm going to do this. And it was a royal scandal. Mary banked on that promise from Henry. Like, she felt like he had agreed to this. And that one duty marriage earned her a love match. Oops, because that's not what he was thinking. They broke the news to 23-year-old King Henry, and he lost it. His sister was a dowager queen, married his dumb friend Charles, a duke way below her rank, because he's a duke, but he's not a duke because his father was a duke. He's a duke because there was a spare dukedom and he's best friends with the king. So he's basically just a commoner with a dukedom.
With a dukedom.
Yep. And Charles was on his way to his third marriage at 31. Mary is almost 19.
That's crazy.
He did marry her to a 52-year-old, so I can't imagine this age gap was too shocking to him.
Right.
But that, to our ears, that's a bigger gap. A 31-year-old on his third marriage and a 19-year-old on her second, when she didn't even pick her first, and it was 3 months long.
Right. How old was Charles when he got married the first time?
I'm not sure, because he was a commoner and so was she. So there's not a lot of info.
Oh.
But his first two wives had both died.
Okay.
So he was a widower times two. He probably didn't have anything to do with it. It just... Yeah. He's a 31-year-old.
Did he have any kids with those first two?
He did.
Okay.
Henry slapped them with huge fines, but Mary's charm and probably some begging softened him. Meanwhile, Queen Catherine was pregnant again, and so was Mary. This time Mary was pregnant with Charles Brandon's baby. And their due dates were only a month apart.
Ooh.
But with Mary and Charles banished from court, the sisters-in-law probably couldn't swap pregnancy tips, which is a bummer, I feel like. They were only a month apart. That would have been perfect.
That would have been awesome.
And, they'd known each other since Mary was 5 years old and Catherine was 16. So, this was basically like her sister.
Right.
And on February 18, 1516, Catherine and Henry welcomed Princess Mary, named after her aunt, Mary. So even though she's banished, he named his daughter Mary, partially after his sister.
Or Catherine named her Mary.
She probably didn't get much. She probably just agreed.
True.
This is, the daughter of the King of England. He probably got to pick. So this Princess Mary would become Mary I, England's first undisputed regnant queen. So that's kind of major. She was just born. And just 3 weeks later, on March 11, 1516, Mary and Charles had a son, who they named Henry Brandon. So even though they're estranged, they named their kids after each other, which I think is so cute.
That is cute.
It's like a peace offering, kind of. Mary and Henry had babies, Henry and Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And only 3 weeks apart. So Catherine's successful pregnancies stopped at Princess Mary. But Mary and Charles kept going. In July 1517, they welcomed Frances Brandon, who... probably her name doesn't sound familiar, but she would be the future mother of Lady Jane Grey, who would stir up her own drama.
Right, but we talked about her when we talked about My Mary. Yes.
Yes. So Frances Brandon is just born.
Okay.
And she was the future mother of the 9 Days Queen. In 1519, they had Eleanor, another feisty Tudor girl. But in 1522, 6-year-old Henry Brandon died, shattering their hearts. By 1523, they had another son that they also named Henry, a nod to their stubborn hope. They were like, okay, well, we'll name this one Henry.
Yeah.
Mary and Charles patched things up with King Henry, becoming the court's VIPs finally. They were like, look, can we just be friends again? He's like, fine, let's do this. Mary was fiercely loyal to Catherine, who, again, was like her sister. And she was not thrilled when Henry started chasing Anne Boleyn, who was 4 years younger than Mary. And remember, she had been a 14-year-old lady's maid to 18-year-old Mary when she went to France. So, like, she knew all these women.
She knew this, Floozy.
Yeah, they had been friendly. And she picked Team Catherine, adding spice to the Tudor family feud. So she got back to court, but then she's like, also, fuck your girlfriend. I'm not here for that. Mm-hmm. In 1528, at 32, Mary and Charles, 43, took on a new gig, raising 9-year-old Baroness Catherine Willoughby.
There's my girl.
Yep, a rich heiress as their ward. So now Mary is raising Catherine. She's 9. Catherine is. And they managed her estates, and for that they got £900 per annum. So per year, 900 pounds, which is a lot back then.
Yeah.
And they betrothed her to their 5-year-old son, Henry. And Mary raised Frances, Eleanor, Henry, and Catherine like a pro. But her health was failing. By the early 1530s, Mary was battling illness that probably was tuberculosis. And she stepped back from court. She just mostly stayed home because she was sick. On June 1st, Mary's brother married her old friend, Anne Boleyn, except he was also still married to Catherine. So nothing to see here, but also it's awkward. And just 24 days later, on June 25th, Mary's light went out at 37.
Oh.
Henry gave his sister a funeral fit for a queen. I think he probably harbored some guilt over their recent relationship. And just 2 months later, Charles married 14-year-old Catherine Willoughby, his ward.
That's so crazy.
Ugh. His 49-year-old self making everyone say, gross, Charles. Even in the time, people were like, Although, really 14 and 49 isn't that different from the 1852.
No.
So it was sort of normal for the time, but also gross. You were raising her like she was your child since she was 9.
Right. Just feels a little incestuous.
She called you dad for 5 years, maybe. Gross.
Yeah. Feels a little incestuous.
Mm-hmm. Francis's daughter, Lady Jane Grey, briefly claimed the English throne. Eleanor became a countess, and young Henry died at 11 in 1534. Mary left behind her sister Margaret, Queen of Scots, and brother Henry, King of England. With her French queen stint, they were the royal trifecta, Queen of Scotland, Queen of France, and King of England, the 3 siblings.
Wow.
Her life, full of love, defiance, and heartbreak, lit up the Tudor saga, and that is where I'll leave it for now. What do you think of Mary Tudor, Princess of England and Queen of France?
I like her. I mean, she seems like she definitely got the concept of rich bitch status.
Mm-hmm.
And like, she wasn't like, she was preparing her entire life to be a leader and in charge and a queen and all the things. And I think she stood up to Henry when Henry needed someone to stand up to him and spoke truth to him when he needed it, whether he liked it or not.
I feel like she trained her whole life to be queen. She was queen for 3 months, and then she's like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to go live with Charles out somewhere in Suffolk.
Thanks for listening.